The man on my patio. Okay, so this happened when I was around 9 years old, 25 now, and it's something I will never forget. It gives me goosebumps to this day. I live in a terraced house, 4 houses combined, and my neighbors, and I each have our own little patio. There's a small road 10 meters from my yard where people do their Sunday walks and so on. Only a small fence separates my small yard and patio from that road. I live in a pretty crowded area, with several terraced houses spread around in my neighborhood, so seeing people walking on that road is pretty normal for me. Seeing random people standing on my patio is not. When I was 9, I usually got home from school about an hour before my mom got home from work. I live maybe 50 meters away from school, so my mom figured I was mature enough to be home alone for around an hour before she got home. This one day I got home from school. I did the usual thing, which was to make sure I locked the front door, and double-checked that the back door leading to the patio was also locked. I was 9, being alone was a little scary even though it was in the middle of the day and only for 1 hour. I then rushed to my room upstairs to play as much PlayStation as possible before my mom came home and made me do homework. While playing, I heard this noise coming from outside my window. My room was located 1 floor over the patio, with a view to the road I told you about before. It was kind of like the sound of a cat. But my cat had been missing for over 3 months. Hope sparked and I thought, OMG, did he finally come back? I ran downstairs to check if it was my cat, but the sight that met me gives me goosebumps just writing this. There was a guy standing on my patio. A tall guy with black hair covering half of his eyes, making him look like a male version of the Ring women or something. I could hear him making high-pitched sounds, almost like a cat meowing. A brown liquid was running down from his mouth, and I could see him spitting out my dad's stomped cigarettes. He was actually eating from the ashtray. I was frozen observing this, eventually snapped out of it and screamed so loud that the man must have heard it. He didn't react, he kept on eating from the ashtray. I ran upstairs to my room, locked the door, and called my mom, who then called the police officers. I've never been more terrified in my life. Lying in bed under my sheets, shivering with fear, as I hear these creepy high-pitched noises from the guy eating cigarette stomps from the ashtray on my patio. I kind of blacked out for a moment because the next thing I remember is the police arriving on the road by my yard. I hear them talking to the guy saying stuff like, "What are you doing? Get over here or we will come down and arrest you," and so on. He didn't respond, but the high-pitched sounds were more frequent and louder. I decided to look through the window, feeling safe now that the police officers were there. I could see 2 police officers standing by my fence, 1 man and a woman. I did not see the creepy man, however, because he was standing directly 1 story under me and my field of view. The police jumped the fence, and I remember hearing the creepy guy screaming louder than anything I've ever heard before. He charged the female police officer with full force, and he knocked her out cold. The male officer then immediately tased the guy, leaving him shaking on the ground, screaming still. The policeman struggled to keep him on the ground while putting handcuffs on him, but eventually made it. After a while he managed to wake up the female police officer, who seemed to be badly hurt. He called for backup and an ambulance, and then he sees me standing in the window above him. The expression on my face must have been something else because he just looked at me and said, "I sure as hell hope you didn't see all that." I started to cry. By this time neighbors started to arrive wondering what was going on. One of my neighbors, an elderly woman, made me come down and she took care of me until my mom came back home. The police took the creepy guy with them in the car and left. Before they left they promised to come back and talk to us about what had happened. This is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The male police officer came back later that night and sat down with me and my mom to talk. He explained that the guy on my patio was actually diagnosed with severe autism. He had escaped a facility where mentally challenged people lived, located around 5 kilometers from where I live. He explained that the guy had actually been living in my house 5 years ago, but he had been forced to move when his mom, his only caretaker, died. The poor guy probably thought he would find his mom in my house. He missed the routines, and he missed living there with his mom. The police had to move him from the house that time 5 years ago, because he was extremely strong. From what I heard, he had extreme tensions in the body because of the autism, making his muscles grow stronger and stronger throughout the years. This was the reason he reacted the way he did when the police came this day. Still frightened, I told the police officer that he needed to make sure this would never happen again. He promised it wouldn't. After a few sleepless nights, my life got back to normal. The years went by, and the guy didn't come back. Until 1 year ago. At this time my mom and dad had moved out. I bought the house from them and I'm still living there today. I was enjoying my morning coffee on the patio when I saw this random guy stopping on the road by my fence. He just stands there, looking at me. I look at him and give him a nod. And then I hear the high-pitched noises. Holy shit, it's him. His hair had turned gray, but the high-pitched sounds made me realize. My heart started racing and I instantly remembered the reason he was back. I realized that he must have managed to escape again. Because I kept my cool a bit longer than when was 9, I started to realize how sorry I felt for the guy. 16 years later and he was back to look for his mom. I decided to carefully ask him if he wanted to come down to the patio. He instantly jumped the fence. I started to think he would knock me out like he did to that police officer. He didn't. He smiled. He looked at me and smiled. I offered him to sit down. He didn't respond. I offered him to come inside. He started laughing. We went inside. His face lit up, pure joy. He was home. It reminded him of the life he had with his mom. It almost made me tear up. All of a sudden he sat down in my couch, turned on my TV and switched directly to the cartoons. I observed him for a while. He was just completely focused on the cartoons. I just wanted him to enjoy the moment, so I didn't say anything to him. I realized I had to call the facility to let them know. The caretakers arrived 10 minutes later. After a lot of convincing, he got back up, crying, and they went back to the facility. I called the facility 2 days later. We made a deal. His name is Tom, and I now consider Tom my friend. Every Sunday from the day he returned, Tom and his caretakers visit me to watch cartoons. They say it's the highlight of his week. It makes my heart warm. Now, for several years my thoughts were, let's not meet, guy on my patio eating from the ashtray. Now my thoughts are, let's meet every Sunday to watch cartoons, my friend Tom. Great, now I have something in my eyes. They won't stop watering. You are an awesome person. I met an autistic kid once while I was working as a furniture repair tech. I came to the house and the issue was the arm of their sofa had collapsed. It turned out that it was the autistic boy's favorite spot to sit, stand, lay, and jump on. I could have just walked out and said the customer had broken it and it wasn't covered under warranty. Instead, I spent a few hours turning that sofa arm into the most sturdy and comfortable item of furniture in the entire house. Several 2x4s, thick foam padding, and long wood screws later and that kid had the best spot in the house. It would have taken a sledgehammer to break that arm down again. After I let him roll my van windows down about 50 times, he really liked power windows. He gave me a hug and I left. His mother called me the next day and insisted I stop by the house as soon as possible. She wanted to thank me. I told her that wasn't at all necessary, but she was relentless. I stopped by on my way home and she forced. Seriously, I tried to decline, a $100 bill in my hand with tears in her eyes. I know I'm not a particularly good storyteller, but I love thinking about how I helped them out and how much they appreciated it. I just wanted to share. My sister works with severely cognitively delayed people as part of her nursing rotation, and one of the things she says is that the best way to keep them calm is to give them something they can hold on to, mentally. They like routine because when you have a lot of problems adapting to changing situations, either because of an actual cognitive delay or more commonly because you're not delayed, you're just not very good at thinking outside your understanding. A routine is something that's mapped out, where every situation has been explored, where you know what you're getting. The whole rest of the world is scary and might hurt you, and you don't think fast enough to avoid the hurt, but routines are safe, and when you feel safe, you can finally feel able to stop being scared enough to feel happy. So for Tom, it's not just going to be about nostalgia, it's going to be about giving him back something safe that he knows and that he can do without worrying about the limitations in his head, and when he feels safe is the only time he feels happy because it doesn't feel scary anymore. He's doing what he knows, and that's good. It's also why family deaths hit these people extra hard. They have safe people, who they know and understand at least a little, certainly more than anyone else in their lives. They form strong bonds with these people because they can't form bonds easily with others, and those bonds are part of their routine, part of their safe activities. Other people are scary, because people with this level of either autism and or cognitive delay see others as basically statues that move, no facial expressions, no vocal tones, no body language. To them, we're completely closed books. Anything that's not explicitly told to them, but rather is conveyed through things like intonation, body language, etc., is essentially non-existent. That makes other people incredibly scary. Imagine that everyone around you was a walking mannequin, who could suddenly do something to you at any time, and you'd have no way of predicting it. You'd be scared of people too. So those people they do understand are safe people, and they form incredibly tight bonds with them because without those people, they're going to struggle hard to survive in this world of mannequins. So, when their safe people die, or are otherwise unavailable, it's a genuine issue. They stop being able to trust anyone, because everyone is so scary to them that they go into fight or flight response almost immediately. They don't know if they're going to upset you, and because they tend to get physical when upset very quickly, they assume you will do the same. They're scared that if they upset you, you'll hurt them, and so everything they do is designed to, at least in their mind, make things safer. When confronted with breaking a routine that used to be safe but now doesn't work, for example going to Mom's house on Sunday but now the police have shown up, they panic and try to do the routine even more so that the scary thing goes away. It becomes a lot easier to understand people like this when you realize that they live in a world that's divided into fear and safety, and almost everything and everyone they meet is firmly in the former category. I have a brother who has Asperger's. I just wanted to tell you that I love him dearly. Yes, he's made my life harder some days, but he's also made me a better person. If there was a magic pill I could give him, I know this doesn't apply to how he feels about it, and make him normal, I wouldn't. He's given me integrity, patience, understanding, and a positive outlook. Some of those things, like patience, came directly from the days he was difficult. So, I'm going to beg you not to be too hard on yourself because your flaws have positive aspects, too. You're perfectly you. Honestly, this is why I'm adopting. I'm plagued with lifelong mental health issues and health issues in my family. I'm healthy though. But I would never want to pass that on to a kid. And if I were pregnant I would get tested for everything, and I'm honestly not strong enough to take care of a mentally challenged kid and would probably give it up for adoption because I know I wouldn't be a good mother and I would resent it. People say it makes me a weird person, but I just know what's within my capabilities. So, I don't want to put myself in that situation because no matter how bad I want it, I would never be able to roll those dice. I just couldn't do it. I'd rather be a foster parent and help children who are here and need a family than bring more into this world and potentially add another to the system. This is why I get so angry at people that have severe genetic disorders and have biological kids all the same. My mom's family has Crohn's, severe anxiety, depression, compulsive behaviors, and muscular dystrophy. I had to grow up with severe anxiety, compulsions, and Crohn's, while also being gay. While I mostly like my life, it has been extremely challenging, and I wish that my mom had had the foresight and kindness to not have had a biological child. She had severe anxieties and never sought help from them and imposed them on me all my life. I still love her, and my dad is really amazing, but people like this should never reproduce. I know I won't. I have a brother with complex disabilities, and if there's one thing that's shown me, it's the innate love people can have for each other. My brother is fortunate enough to have so many people that care about him. I worry about what it'll be like for him when my folks and I are gone, and I know that there are countless people who will work with him and genuinely love the time they spend with him. You can't predict the future, but you can put your faith in the good in the world and teach your loved ones to do the same. My uncle has very severe cerebral palsy. My uncle was the second of 5 kids and spent his entire childhood in the hospital. My dad told me they would all go to the hospital for holidays. Everyone always asked my grandma something that made her so mad. They would ask, why would you keep having kids after he turned out the way he did? Well, that's the gist of the question anyway. He turned out like he did in an amazing way. My uncle is an incredible person. He has made national news and even rode his trike across America with my family to raise awareness of cerebral palsy, and that took 3 months to complete. When he was about 12, the doctor told my grandparents he was going to die, so they had him ride a tricycle to live maybe another year. He's now in his late 60s and still rides that tricycle every day. He even based his business around it. He had a specially made trailer that he carried advertisements on while he goes across town every day. My family never planned for any of this to happen, and it would hurt my grandma so deeply when they would insinuate that he was a problem or a mistake. When he was about 6 months old, he got a really high fever. They couldn't get him to the hospital in time to stop the brain damage. But he is someone who is amazing to have in your life. I think the trick is to build up friendships with people who you trust to take care of them once you are gone. Maybe even have them become friends with some of the caretakers where you'll have him go if no one can take care of them. My grandma swore across her heart that she would never go back and change a single thing because he is perfect just the way he is. I personally find it hard to believe that somebody with autism that severe would be able to come in, sit down, turn on a TV they've never seen or used, and turn it to a specific channel. Mostly because a person with autism that has severe speech impediments, elopes, and shows very obvious signs of antisocial behavior would usually also have an exceptionally low IQ. Also, the fact that a health facility allegedly agreed to let an escaped patient who was institutionalized come and visit the house of somebody not even related to them. It all just sounds wrong. I'm not sure why you do. I don't find any aspect of this story unbelievable. A handful of my cousins have autism, and they are all along the spectrum. I have one autistic cousin who is quite tall, strong, and impulsive. At one point, he kept running away from his home and breaking into his grandparents' home, my aunt and uncle. My cousin had lived with them for a period of time, and it was a particularly happy place for him. He would break in via a back door, and my aunt and uncle would discover him calmly sitting and watching TV. It's really tragic because my cousin was deeply loved, but too strong and willful to be cared for by family. He eventually had to be sent to a secure facility, but fortunately he was visited by family who loved him. We need more OPs and Toms in this world. I have a nonverbal son with severe autism and knew immediately when you wrote the part about him making the high-pitched noises that was likely the case for this man. My anxiety level was absolutely through the roof because I knew a 9-year-old couldn't possibly have understood why he was acting that way if they'd never encountered someone like him before. My son is still a teenager and exceedingly small for his age, but I worry that something like this could happen to him. I had to stop reading when the police came. Took a few minutes to steel myself for the possibility he was seriously injured or killed, but I am so glad I read the rest of it. Thank you so much for being you and for befriending him. You have a beautiful heart. My daughter is severely autistic in this exact same way. This story absolutely kills me inside because what her life will be like after my wife and I are gone is going to be a nightmare for her. Thinking about it is a living nightmare for me. I can picture my daughter in your story and the mental anguish I feel for this situation I cannot prevent and have little control over just breaks me. It's like torture. You're a good person. This world needs better services for severely autistic people. There is no peace of mind. The future only holds pain and suffering. I hate this world. This is amazing and it has really warmed my heart. We see so many stories here of people who've had unfortunate run-ins with people who just seem mentally challenged, like you as a child, and while they're thrilling to read, they're always sad too. I have to commend you on your bravery and understanding when you saw this man again last year. Not everyone would react like that, and it is really beautiful how things worked out. You are an amazing person. You would have been 100% justified in calling the police officers. Last time ended violently, you were unaware of any current behavioral issues he might have, etc., but you kept him calm and showed a hell of a lot of compassion. I used to work at a care facility for adults with developmental disabilities. One of our clients was severely autistic. Fairly sweet guy, and only occasionally would his more extreme behaviors happen, and self-directed. The only time he attacked others while I worked there, or that I have heard since I left since I still have friends there, was the day his mom died. I was the one attacked, but I couldn't be mad at him. Sometimes, things happen. And frankly, it wasn't like him. Very few of our clients had violent outbursts, mostly tried to eat hot dogs in the middle of the night, run streaking down the street, pee their pants when angry, but outsiders wouldn't know that. For someone without that life experience and context, your wonderful reaction helps keep my faith in humanity. My 18-year-old daughter is like Tom. I'm only 44, but I know eventually I won't be able to be there for her and she'll be adrift in the system without somebody who loves her like I do to watch out for her. I hope all her interactions are with strangers as kind as you, but the thing that's destroying me, right now, is that past experiences tell me it's not likely. Still, thank you for sharing your story and for being a good person when somebody needed it. It gives me some hope, at least. Wow, this was a lot to take in reading it. And I honestly thought this was going to end a whole unique way than it did. It must have taken a lot of mental and emotional strength to invite Tom down and then inside the way you did. And I'm guessing it may have helped you as well with closing a scary chapter in your young life to such a great positive one. Hope Tom enjoys every Sunday watching cartoons. My son has a friend whose older brother has severe autism. He is completely nonverbal. The door to their house has a code to exit. We once had a party and they brought Billy with them. Billy loved our pool. He likes to just stand in the water up to his neck. A couple of years later, Billy appeared at our door having walked a couple blocks. We have no idea how he found the house. He wanted to see the pool, but it was already closed for the season. We entertained Billy with the dog while contacting his parents about the escape. I came upon your story while outside sneaking the 3 kids and I made it through another day alive, guilty pleasure cigarette. Just as I silently mouthed, "Holy shit, it's him," his hair had turned gray, not more than an acre back into our timber, a pack of coyotes' howls broke the dead silence of winter on an average. I've never been more terrified in my life. I'm now lying in bed. I have no idea how my sleeping husband hasn't woken up from the deafening thud of my racing heart. I will forever hear your friend's unhuman noises like a howling coyote. As a single mom to a severely autistic little girl, your story made me bawl my eyes out. You are a sweet soul, and you took my worry from, "What happens when I die?" to, "There might be hope that someone will care about her." There are so many layers to your story, from a child scared of a strange scary man, to facing that fear with knowledge and compassion for the man that scared you. My kiddo also has super strength, and it's often hard to handle at times. Thank you for being so incredible. It takes a lot for a person to take a step back and analyze a situation rather than just freaking out. You have incredible strength. And you are now the highlight of his life. That is some powerful stuff. Sometimes humanity really disappoints me. But then I read a genuinely beautiful story like this. Much love and positive vibes to you and your friend Tom. Absolutely fantastic. I will likely never meet you, this story likely being the only knowledge I will ever have of you, but I can say with certainty that this world needs more people like you. You have a beautiful heart. So many other people would have called the police and live streamed the fallout/posted selfies with captions describing how the psycho came back. OMG, I was almost murdered again. WTF. Hashtag serial killer, hashtag unsung hero, hashtag gotcha freak, without the slightest crumb of compassion. I wish I could read stories like yours every day. This was such a chilling and heartwarming read, and I'm so happy with the outcome. I love this ending so much. When you mentioned the sounds, I knew you were going to say he has autism. You're awesome for getting it and empathizing with his need to be back at home. If he is nonverbal, I would wager that he still probably has particularly good comprehension. It makes me so happy that you have become friends. Purple Heart. As a mother of a boy with autism, thank you. I know they can be scary at times, and it is not your responsibility to come into their world to calm them, but God love and appreciate angels like you who do. My biggest fear is what will happen to my Sal when I die. I have made housing, pay, and food arrangements for when I do pass, but I still feel saddened. No one will ever understand, care for, or love him like I do. I can only hope and pray my baby doesn't get mistreated. I am so scared of him being mistreated at school while I'm alive, but I worry tenfold more about him being mistreated when I am no longer here to advocate for him. Thank you for helping this man. May you have many blessed Sundays with Tom.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.